Well, good afternoon and welcome to our afternoon safari on a very lovely Monday afternoon. This is Djuma Game Reserve. My name is Mark. Andrew's with me on camera and we're coming to you live from the Great Kruger National Park in South Africa. A really wonderful wildlife area that is very, very rich in its diversity. And I'm hoping that we can at least address some of that diversity on our drive this afternoon for the next 3 hours. With a little bit of help from all of you, the viewers, because this is an interactive show. It's not a show, this is an introduction, or this is a continuation, depending on how long you've been viewing. If this is new, this is your introduction to our live drives, and for all of those WildEarth family out there, a continuation of our journey around Djuma Game Reserve. And I hope any of you who are new are going to join us again and again and again, because you're going to find out how fantastic it is to be able to be a witness to the ongoing sagas of individual animals, to the varied and intricate lives of all sorts of creatures, be they reptiles, birds, insects, spiders, mammals, sometimes even fish. We don't get to do underwater stuff very often, and that's mostly because the underwater stuff here is unfilmable, very dark waters. What we could do, I suppose, is maybe put them in a clear perspex tank and put them in clear water, but it just wouldn't be the same. However, welcome to Djuma. It's a very, very hot and muggy, kind of humid afternoon, and while we've got some beautiful blues, look at that blue sky, that beautiful blue sky to the east and the northeast, I want to show you something about how the weather is treating us this afternoon. Although Andrew's going to probably battle. You're going to the blue sky, and then with that blue sky that's down there, you can see this big tongue of white cloud hanging above it. And this is the edge of a very big front, very big, actually it's not a front, this is a cell, a storm cell. And we're going to actually go up to quarantine right now. We're going to have a look at that storm cell shortly, because it gets very, very dark to the west. Looks like a raisin bush growing in the middle there, in that fork of that knobthorn. Oh. This is a knobthorn tree, and there's something that could be a gruyere or a raisin bush growing in its fork from the bird dropping the seed. There's one thing that comes along with this weather that we haven't had, I don't think, once this entire summer. And it was the first thing that Andrew remarked on when we came out this afternoon. We haven't had it in camp, but that was the northeast and the east, that lovely blue sky. But now we can continue. If we go back to that, what we were looking at in the northeast. Anyways, yes, so we are inundated with flies at the moment. It's a very good sign that there might be rain. Andrew begged me to keep going and not stop, because as long as we drive, we can maybe get rid of some of them. They're tiny little, they're very similar to the domestic fly that you might have in your house, but they're just very much smaller, and so they tickle everywhere. I'm just not into tickling right now. So look at this, we've got that beautiful silver edge to this dark cloud. And then as we go to the south, this is now looking west, we're now gone from east looking west into darkness almost. Not quite Mordor, as Andrew would put it. Getting there. Fortunately, it's very, very far in the west. I don't think it's going to affect or impact our drive this afternoon. But it's going to be very interesting to see how it's going to change over the next 3 hours. If you're interested in how weather works here in South Africa, as opposed to snowy North America, Britain, Europe, Northern Hemisphere. I'm sure any of the Aussies that are watching, or New Zealand, might be familiar with the Southern Hemisphere phenomenon, but we are in the end of summer. It is sadly getting yellower and yellower by the minute. We look now, I mean, just now, instead of a bright blue sky, looking against the dark sky, look at, there's a yellow bush willow in there that's almost entirely yellow. Sorry, I'm giving you work, Andrew.
I don't mind.
Dry leaves. Today I think desiccated more things, or I think because of the heat and the dryness today, I think it's sort of exacerbated the dryness or enhanced the dryness of it all. Okay. Porque Limco. Very good, and you? Hi. Yeah.
You see my poncho, you can talk to me as well.
Yeah, sure.
It's on the back top.
Okay. Hope he won't find it. Not to worry, we'll sort it out. Now, because this is a surprise, and probably a very nice one at that for all of us, more so for me, maybe, I'm going to leave it up to you to tell me who this is. It's very difficult because he's given it away. Yes, it's a he, it's a boy, I believe. I've never seen this cat before, so it's quite new. Gonna drop it if he carries on doing that. Looks like a young steenbok that he's caught.
Ready. Nine. I'll start. Cool.
Cool. Okay, so we've got those sausages that go. Just so we're laughing, kind of thing.
Good evening and welcome to the Fireside Chat. It is a beautiful, beautiful evening here and apologies for the delay.
Really?
There was a delay, slight one.
So it's my fault to blame me.
Well,
my
Mark
fault.
accepts responsibility for being a few minutes late, so thank you, Mark.
I do. And everything else, the signals, puncture that Alex had, everything. I'll take full responsibility.
That's kind of you.
How was your day, Scott?
It was very good. A relaxing day. Not huge amounts of the regular excitement, but a few smaller sightings, some really interesting ones. A big thank you to, I think it's Jeffrey in Texas for finding out the name of that bug that I thought was a kind of cicada, and it was an emerald?
Jewel beetle.
Jewel beetle. And really, really pretty, so thanks for finding that out for us. And little things like that were the highlights of my day.
It's one of my favorite beetles.
I said you would know what it was.
Yeah.
I've
got one. I've got it dried. It is so hard to find emerald jewel beetles nowadays. Do you know how old it is?
I have no idea.
You know, the jewel beetles are probably some of the oldest beetles. They live in dead wood for sometimes up to 40, 45 years.
Really?
Yeah, as larvae.
So they could have possibly living in the dead marula on which we saw them mating?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, it's one of their host species, the jewel beetles and the longhorn beetles and the click beetles.
Okay.
Some of the beetles that live for some of the longest times ever, because their larvae just take so much time to grow. And perhaps some of the most amazing beetles are the jewel beetles, and they're called jewel beetles. You can see why. I mean, those metallic colors, you can't reproduce that.
Yeah, it was really incredible, and we got lucky. There was some beautiful afternoon sunlights on them, so.
Yeah. And they were mating.
They were mating. Couldn't believe it.
And you saw that.
We saw that. So I even took a few
so
photos
that's
with my
even
camera.
more amazing that you've actually found that.
It is. We watched them for a while until it got a little bit awkward, and we thought we should leave them alone.
Oh, okay, yeah, I can understand that. But you're getting to be quite the spotter for the small things with those baby chameleons.
You have to be, because there's not always the big stars of the show around, as you well know.
No, I do. That's also true. I'm getting jealous because you're finding more of the little things than me.
Well, as a team, it works out because you know what the things are that I'm finding, so it works out quite well. Okay, well, let's get some questions going, folks. And just to let you know, to ask questions, you would hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or questions@wildearth.tv on email. And Alex is in the final control. We'll get those questions through to us. Alex, you could just go again with the name, but I know whoever it was from Texas. And the question that has been asked is, are there any completely wild places left in South Africa that are not natural parks or that are not privately owned pieces of land? And it is a good question. I would say the direct answer to that is no. There aren't any untouched wild places in South Africa that are unaffected by human beings unless they are fenced in and either national parks or privately owned.
Or game reserves.
Yeah.
If they're not privately owned, they're government owned, and if they're government owned, they're either declared as a national park or a game reserve, or or homeland.
Yeah. So no, in South Africa, there aren't wild areas. You'd have to go to other areas of Africa to still find areas that exist where wild animals are still coexisting with tribes. For example, in Kenya and Tanzania, those are two examples that come to mind.
Central Congo, sort of along the Congo River, sort of that whole Congo basin, perhaps.
Yeah.
Going up into West Africa too. But
so yeah, a lot of the less developed African countries still do have areas which are unfenced, and wild animals still exist there, and interaction between humans often existing as they did hundreds of years ago, still in traditional clothing and living as they did many years ago.
Yeah.
You still do find those places, but in South Africa that is very rare, or it doesn't exist.
I can't think of anywhere. I mean, we might be wrong. There might be, and we'd be open to anybody suggesting an area that they think that is a possible area that is neither declared government land or it still has its natural biodiversity. I don't think in South Africa, I don't think in any of the southern African countries, In fact, I think only sort of really more towards Central and West Africa and some East African countries where you have like the whole Maasai steppe. In fact, that northern Tanzania, southern Kenya area where we both spent time. That whole Maasai steppe with the Maasai land is where the Maasai still live amongst natural indigenous populations of wildlife, and they move their cattle through the wildlife areas, and in fact they've become so much part of the environment that the wildlife regards them as part of the environment, and wildlife reacts differently to the indigenous people as it does to perhaps intruders or Western people or people coming in who are not part of the local tribal way of life, because that kind of way of life just tends to become part of the environment. It becomes so second nature to everything. And there have been some good examples of how elephant react or lion react to things like that. Oh, no, even more importantly, buffalo.
Yeah.
To some extent, how buffalo know that when they see certain humans in a particular attire that is different to the Maasai, that is different to the indigenous people that they live with, that their lives are in danger, yet they're not in danger with the local indigenous people who have cattle and who are peaceful and non-threatening.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also heard
A small branch cracking, it sounds like. It's
Or
quite
horns.
far away, do you agree? Or horns.
two horns
Or horns.
or two tusks clashing.
Oh, well, for now the coast is clear.
Sorry,
But that was a great question, and it is important to know if people are planning to do safaris, depending on whether you're wanting to experience just a game viewing experience or if you would like to experience
Or
real,
more
raw
cultural.
cultural experiences. There are certain countries that offer better cultural experiences tied in with the safari experience than South Africa might do. And that's obviously not playing down South Africa, but it is important to realize that every different country and every different park that you go to will have certain things that make a difference and possibly better than another, depending on what you're looking for. So
there are a lot of, the one thing that I found about East Africa is there are a number of lodges and there are a number of places that you can visit that do have cultural experiences, but not only that, that they are tied to the local villages where all the staff come from. And we've experienced it a little bit here at Djuma, probably more so than any other place that I know, well, Londolozi maybe, but there are, here at Djuma we've supported the local communities up in Dixie and Utah, and very much the local communities where the staff have come from that have worked here at Djuma, and for us at WildEarth, speaking of Rex and Tamani and Patrick Gumedi and the staff of Djuma. But up in East Africa, there are whole communities that are benefiting from this. Their village members working in the national parks that border the village communities, and the lodges encouraging people who come and visit those lodges to go into the local communities where these people are sponsoring schools, they're sponsoring books and stationery and desks and even the buildings themselves, because a lot of rural schools might just be sort of a few rocks under a tree, believe it or not. But a wonderful thing is that we both spent time in the Chulu Hills, and you know about that clinic. I mean, there was an American foundation that sponsored clinics in some of the most remote areas of Maasai land, and they're probably some of the most up-to-date laboratories and clinics that are helping bring medicine and help to people that are living in such rural and urban areas.
Brian, would you mind turning up my volume on my earpiece a little bit, please? Sorry, Alex, go again with that question. My volume was just a little bit down.
So you can't really, I suppose, get to come on safari without having that. I think you would only have half an experience if you were having a safari experience and not at least engaging in a cross-cultural experience with local people. And is one of the things that is actually helping a lot in local communities, fund schools and fund clinics and fund a greater awareness for the wildlife, because I think to a large extent, a lot of the communities that live on the fringes of wildlife areas they haven't really benefited much. They've always sort of seen them as elite Western areas where people come and pay a lot of money to view game, but they don't benefit from it. And now for the first time, the people that are actually running the camps and working in these areas, their villages are benefiting directly, whether it's donations of seed and farming material and water pumps and schools. It doesn't really matter what it is, but it's only through tourism that we're able to benefit the local communities, and for these communities to see the benefit of tourism as opposed to the wild bushmeat trade and poaching, and unfortunately the decimation of wildlife, which does happen in some areas where the civil war and perhaps extremism takes hold.
Yeah, I agree. And thanks very much to the two cameramen and Alex in control, and to all the viewers and Mark. Well done. Another good day, another good week. Yeah.
Yeah. We're looking forward to a new one.
Yeah. Well, there we go.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks for setting up. Thanks to the guys behind the scenes. Is that Brian and the Thumb and Wim and Alex in final control. And hopefully Romeo will be back tomorrow.
Yes.
Young Jason.
Yes, exactly. Look forward to seeing him again.
He had a day of family.
Cool. Well, all the best from us. And
We're going to see you tomorrow.
Yeah, it's myself tomorrow. Only one vehicle out in the morning. Mark needs to catch up on some sleep.
No, I don't. I need to go and fix a wheel because Alex got a puncture today.
But yeah, it's just myself out in the morning, but both of us in the afternoon, and we will see you then.
Yes. Love you lots. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye, Scott.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.